So today's video is going to be a battle of two GTRs, one from Japan, one from Germany. So I've been meaning to shoot this video for a while since I have access to both cars and I own one of them, to do a video and comparison and contrast on the Nissan GTR T-Spec and my 2018 Mercedes-Benz AMG GTR. These are both incredible cars. Now, the reason I'm shooting this video, and I think it's relevant, is whenever I shot review videos or content on either one of these cars, I got a lot of emails saying, hey, you know what? I'm considering either an R35 GTR or an AMG GTR. What do you think is better? So this video is going to be pretty comprehensive. I'm going to go into the design of the car, the performance, the layout. We're going to take both cars for a quick ride down the block, and I'm going to give you guys my final thoughts because both of these cars are absolutely phenomenal machines. They're both priced around the same value. And like I said, if you guys are looking for, you know, a Nissan GTR or an AMG GTR, I mean, I personally think this spec, the T-Spec, is the way to go, or a Nismo. And if you're gonna go with AMG GT, you gotta get a GTR or a GTR Pro or even a Black Series. But we're not gonna talk about the Black Series just because that's 3 times the price. So we wanna talk about these two cars here because they're priced around, you know, between 150 to like 180 grand, depending on the year and the miles. And we're gonna kind of go over both of them now. So let's just take a look at the Nissan GTR. Okay, this is the T-Spec, which is that funky color that goes from green to black to purple. This has the 20-inch raised wheels. We have the carbon ceramic brakes. I mean, this car is my favorite spec. Now, in terms of design, this is really what I want to talk about. So we're going to talk about the design of both cars. We're going to show you guys the interior. We'll talk about build quality, tuning potential, reliability, all that good stuff. So when you look at the design of the R35, okay, historically, it doesn't resemble anything from the GTRs of the past, okay? This is a unique design that they came out with, and it's either something that you either love it or hate it, but it has a pretty slab side design of it. But I think in this color, this purple shifting paint, I think it looks freaking cool. You got nice big titanium exhaust pipes out back. You know, it's the same design that's been out for like 17 years, but I still think this car is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite performance cars that I've ever driven on the street, and I really was trying to buy one, but these are very hard to get. These T-Specs are only made like 1 of 30. So you got door handles here very similar to what Aston Martin does, and on the T-Spec you got the green interior. Kind of went over this in my full review video, and it just makes it much more upscale for what you're paying for the premium. Okay, now as far as the car, this is a 2+2, so we have 2 little jump seats in the back, whereas the AMG GTR is strictly a 2-seater. So now when you look at the AMG GTR, this car has a lot of influence of vintage Mercedes-Benz race cars going back to the 300 SLs from the 1950s, because we have the Panamericana grille, we got the 2 bulges in the hood, we have the slick profile of the profile silhouette of the car, you can kind of see it there. So it does resemble a lot of the history of Mercedes-Benz race cars, and that's one thing that I love about the style of the AMG GTR. This one has a fixed rear wing as well. Very wide. It's got a nice carbon diffuser, titanium exhaust. We'll go for a little bit of a drive in a minute. You guys could hear it if you guys haven't watched any of my other videos. And this one is in Green Hell Magno. This is a custom special ordered paint, and I just think it looks phenomenal. This car also has carbon ceramic brakes. Now, whereas we have on the R35, we have a conventional 4-piston Brembo style caliper. For some reason, AMG stopped doing that way back, and now they're just doing calipers like that. Nonetheless, the cars are pretty different in terms of suspension architecture and in terms of weight. Now, the R35 T-Spec, this car is close to 4,000 pounds, but once you do a little bit of tuning mods to it, you don't feel the weight at all. Also, plus the intelligent all-wheel drive and the suspension. I'm going to emphasize the suspension on this car because it's one of the best out-of-the-box sports suspensions out of any performance car I've ever driven. It is absolutely incredible. Whereas the AMG GTR is one of the stiffest and most brutal suspensions that makes it not very daily driver friendly, and a car you're going to have to really pay attention to where you're driving, because the AMG GTR has a double wishbone suspension, very similar to a Dodge Viper. So when you hit bad bumps, if you look where the seating position is, you're pretty much sitting on the back wheel, okay? So you're getting a shock. When this car has a hop on a bad bump, you're getting a shock right into the back of the seat like you're on a pogo stick. Pretty crazy. But if you look at the interior, it's typical Mercedes-Benz AMG. Everything's leather, Alcantara, carbon fiber, very upscale. It has a very high-end feel to it, okay? Awesome seats. These seats are also better than the R35s in my opinion. Storage space, we're not really going to talk about that, but we really want to talk about, you know, the differences between these two cars. So This particular car, the AMG, is kind of, they call it a mid-engine layout. Let me just pop the hood, I'll show you real quick. If you guys haven't watched any of the other videos on this channel. So we'll show you this one. Okay, so the misconception is this is not the engine, okay? The engine is all the way back here. So when you look at the axle line is right here, and the engine is literally right here and underneath the dashboard. So they consider this a mid-engine layout, double wishbone suspension, carbon fiber chassis brace, carbon fiber torque tube, dual clutch transaxle. Transaxle means it's mounted in the rear. The GTR also has a transaxle, but it's a 6-speed. This is a 7-speed. This is the same transaxle that Ferrari uses. Okay, so you look at the layout of this car, very, very different. It's comprised of carbon fiber, magnesium, aluminum. This car weighs, I believe, between 3,600 pounds, somewhere around that. So it's quite a bit lighter than the R35, but they're very, very different cars. I'm gonna pop the hood on the R35 just so we could kind of go over that. And so the next topic I want to talk about is this one. Look at this. This doesn't even have a hydraulic struts. It has a prop rod, okay? That's a little annoying for a car of that caliber, but I guess they do it to save weight, but I don't know how much weight you're actually saving. So this car has a double wishbone suspension in the front, almost identical in architecture to the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio and also a lot of Ferraris. The rear suspension, a sophisticated multi-link. This has an all-wheel drive system with dual carbon fiber drive shafts. The transaxle is mounted in the back. I think it's made by GetRag. Very, very different architecture between the two cars, okay? So if you look at where the engine's mounted here, here's your axle center line, okay? So it's kind of pushed back a little bit for weight distribution, but it's not as mid-engine mounted or centric as the AMG GTR. Now, in terms of motors, so this is the 4-liter bi-turbo AMG motor. This motor is hand-built, but the one thing about making a car special, you know, I've had a bunch of GT350s, and I think that car is special because the engine was only used in the GT350. Ford never took that engine and placed it into other vehicles. This 4-liter, unfortunately, they put it into almost everything in the AMG lineup, from the C-Class, the E-Class, the G-Wagon, the GLE. So this engine is not special in that regard, even though it's a monster. It sounds good, it's got the power, it's hand-built at the AMG factory, but in terms of specialty, as far as like a one-of-a-kind engine that was built just for the car, this one doesn't have it. Now, the Black Series is a little bit more of a bespoke engine because they changed the crankshaft arrangement. That's a little bit different, but we're not talking about the Black Series, we're talking about the GTR. Now, Nissan, on this one, this is also a hand-built bi-turbo V6, but the interesting thing about this motor is that this engine is not placed in any other Nissan product. So this is bespoke to the R35 only. You kind of see some cool stuff. You have a carbon fiber brace that goes through the cowl. They're very, very different in the design. Very, very different power delivery, but both of them are absolutely incredible performance cars. If you guys are looking to spend about $150,000 and you are looking at these two cars, you can't go wrong with either one, but I'm going to talk further on the drive as far as what each car does well and which car is probably better for the street, and depending on where you drive, because in the roads in New York, we have really bad roads. The GTR is phenomenal on a smooth road. On a bumpy road, this car beats the living crap out of you, okay? I'm just going to tell you that now. Whereas the R35 Nissan GTR T-Spec has got one of the best suspensions and the chassis torsional rigidity. It's so goddamn good that you could drive this all day long on some of the worst roads in New York and you never come out fatigued, okay? That's one of the bonuses why I love this car and why I was trying to sell my Alfa Romeo to buy one of these to daily drive, but these are just so expensive and they're so hard to get that it just didn't make sense right now. But if I could do it, I don't think I would sell the AMG GTR to get an R35 GTR, but I would sell one of my other cars to get an R35 GTR T-Spec. So that's just, take that information with a grain of salt. That's just my comparison because I've been living with this car for a year. I've been living with this one for a couple of months and I drive them back to back, and it's really cool that I have the opportunity today to experience both cars and talk about it in this upcoming, this new video. Let's just go through the interior real quick. On the AMG, I kind of showed you a little glimpse of it, but the interior is very high-end. It looks very good. It's got high-end materials everywhere, okay? This is a nice, nice place to be. The stereo system, the Burmester, this is the optional one. You can see it. The optional ones, if you're shopping for these cars, they have the extra tweeters up in the dash. That's how you'll know it has the upgraded Burmester. But the interior is high quality. You got carbon fiber, you know, everywhere over here on the door strip. So it's a very, very high-end, high-quality car. Also, the fit and finish is phenomenal. These cars were hand-built. So the AMG GTR and the Nissan GTR were both hand-built vehicles, very limited production, and they're very rare, and their performance potential is absolutely staggering. Now, you go into the T-Spec, which I think is my favorite, or the Nismo. You get the gold stitching, the green leather, you got the Alcantara on the dash, you got this funky, you see that headliner right there? That's a little funky, but still pretty cool. The one thing that I dislike is some of this here feels cheap, okay, for a premium product, and also the gauge cluster doesn't feel very high-end. And I just think that they should have added more carbon fiber here into the doors, and just to spruce this up a little bit. But like I said, it's a Nissan product, so it's not a Lexus, it's not an Infiniti product, it's not, you know, it is what it is. Whereas the AMG, you know, is a much higher end product, but I still feel that they both compete in the same price categories. So you're not getting as nice of a quality of leather. You could feel it. The leather that's used here is not as nice as the AMG's. You're not getting the Alcantara steering wheel. You are getting a beautifully stitched Alcantara dash, but you are getting a lot of plastic. So whereas on the AMG, I have a lot of carbon fiber everywhere. This is just plastic. So you have plastic here, plastic there. You have a little bit of carbon here on the tunnel, but I still feel at the doors, this all should be carbon fiber. This all should have been matte, dry carbon fiber. I just think it was an afterthought from Nissan to do these special editions without doing that. All right, guys, now regarding reliability, we all know that this car is bulletproof. How do I know it's bulletproof? Because I know guys that have tuned these things with 2,000 horsepower and they beat the living crap out of them on the track and nothing breaks. This car is absolutely a bulletproof Japanese race car, okay? Now, in terms of tuning potential, the Nissan GTR has an abundance of aftermarket supplies. Like I don't see anybody, like I said, tuning an AMG GTR with 3,000 horsepower. I've seen R35s with 3,000 horsepower running 7 seconds in the quarter mile, which is absolutely insane. They do these packages like Alpha X and all these crazy packages. So the tuning potential of this platform is abundant. You could pretty much go. This one's tuned. We probably have maybe 700-800 horsepower in this one, and it's really fast, and I'll talk about the power delivery. Also, the power delivery on this is frightening. It's linear, and if you're not ready for it, it's gonna scare the living crap out of you. Whereas this delivers power like a GT500. It's like a muscle car. It's a German muscle car. So with the 4-liter bi-turbo, you guys could do custom intakes, you could do custom turbos, a custom tune, custom downpipes, but I don't know of anybody that has one of these tuned past 1,000 horsepower. Okay, that's just from what I'm researching, of what I know on these cars. I don't see any AMG GTR tuned over 1,000 horsepower, whereas this one, you could get easily up to 3,000 horsepower. So I think this is probably just limited to what this 4-liter motor could do and also what the aftermarket provides. There's going to be limitations to the tuning potential. You know, there's your Bosch ECU up there, and the turbos are put into the V of the engine. You kind of see it back there. So they're two completely different engines and two different designs and two different design architectures. This one wins in terms of tuning potential. In terms of reliability, I would say this car also is probably more reliable. The Mercedes can be a little finicky with certain things like the oil level sensors. Sometimes a little electronic stuff may pop up, like with a check engine light, depending on the fuel you put in the car. So this could be a little bit more sensitive to maintenance. This also has dynamic hydraulic engine mounts, which are very expensive, and they also tend to fail. I bought the car with brand new mounts. You also got to do the plugs in this car quite often. And they're actually, it's like a 5 or 6 hour job if you never did it before, to change the plugs and the coil packs and all of that. So they're very, very different cars. This one may be a little bit more difficult to work on. If you're going to do like a set of catless downpipes, you've got to drop the torque tube. It's a big job. Not many people know how to do that. Whereas something like this is a conventional front engine, rear transaxle layout with the dual carbon fiber drive shafts. This is probably a little bit more easier to work on and more conventional work on. So that's just pretty much the differences that I want to highlight between the two cars. Horsepower wise, right now, this one has more horsepower than that one. But this car, in my opinion, is a little bit more visceral, raw, and angry, whereas this is much more livable and daily driver friendly. So let's get both of these cars out for a ride. We're gonna take them down the road. I'm gonna talk to you more, like a quick little drive video on both of these cars, and I'll give you guys my final thoughts as far as if you're GTR shopping between an R35 or an AMG GT, you may wanna check this video out till its entirety. Let's go for a ride right now. All right, guys, we're in a Nissan GTR T-Spec. Like I said, like I mentioned in the other parts of the video, it does feel a little dated. Like, you know, when you look at the infotainment, but you're not buying this car for that. you're buying this car for its engineering and its tuning potential, which is out of the box. We have all the R buttons checked off. We're gonna go into manual, car's warmed up, and we're just gonna take it on a blast, and then we're gonna swap it out and get the AMG GTR out. I mean, the power delivery of this car is so goddamn fast and linear that you got to be ready for it. Like, it's so fast that you just pick up the pace that the car in front of you is going to be coming up very, very close. It is unbelievable. Now, the one thing I'll talk about between the two cars is steering feedback. The AMG has better steering feedback. This feels a little over-assisted, and I think with this much power and all-wheel drive, I think it should just be a little bit heavier, where you can kind of feel the front end a little bit better. But I'm in the stiffest suspension mode, and this is by far one of the best sports suspensions out of the box that I've ever been in my life. I don't think I would ever mess with this suspension. Now, the AMG GTR is so brutal, and I'll talk about it when I swap cars out in a couple of minutes, that it's not made for the faint at heart. That car will beat the living crap out of you if you're not prepared for it. So if you have a headache, if you're hungover, you have lower backache, the AMG GTR is going to make you miserable. It's going to make you miserable quick. But this car is absolutely incredible. This is one of the best cars I've ever been in and driven in my life. The engineering, like I said, you know, people say it's dated, it is what it is. There's not many cars that could do what this car could do, even till today in 2024, going into 2025. That's how good this car is. But it's also very expensive. Now, a GTR Premium, I came close to buying one. They were asking for $40,000 over MSRP. MSRP was $128,000. So think about that. So you're paying $40,000. You're about $170,000 plus tax plus shipping. Now it becomes a very, very expensive purchase. Now the AMG GTR might be the better deal, because you could get an AMG GTR, depending on the mileage, you know, between 120 to 170. Okay. Oh, this car is just so good. The compression and rebound and spring rates that are in this car, I'll have to say they're magic. Not many cars get it this right out of the box. I mean, Porsche does great on their GT products, GT4, GT3, but they also become a little harsh. Whereas this car, I don't know what they did. And these shocks are made by Bilstein. This car is just incredible. It is absolutely, absolutely incredible. The rate of speed, the power delivery, the dual clutch, the brakes. Yeah, you can't mess with this car. This car is no joke. Absolutely no joke. Very, very different seating position, very different driving experience. Yeah, I love this thing. Absolutely love it. So that's a quick little drive we're going to do in the Nissan GTR R35 T-Spec. I don't want to stop driving. I don't want to stop filming. But let's loop back around. Let's go grab the AMG GTR, take it on the same little loop. You guys can get the visual and the audio, and we'll give you guys the Auto Fanatic final thoughts on which GTR you should go out and buy in a couple of moments. So stay tuned the rest of the video. All right, guys, we're in the AMG GTR now. Let me tell you something, a very different experience between the R35 GTR. Number one, we're sitting lower to the ground. We have a seat that's hard as a rock with better lumbar support, thicker steering wheel. We have more contact patch front and rear. And you can hear it by the audio, this car is a lot louder. This car is very, very visceral, very raw. And the sounds and what you feel in this car is what makes this car so damn special. And it's not a slouch. This car's got a set of balls. And this car has active rear steer, okay? And believe it or not, the R35, that's all-wheel drive, I actually feel more glued to the road in the AMG GTR than the R35. I don't know if it's because of the steering weight or some of the geometry changes between the two different cars, but you can hear it. I mean, this car is a monster. So I replaced my GT350R Shelby with this car because it kind of fit that same raw, obnoxious personality, and that was really what I wanted in a replacement, except I wanted it with a dual clutch. I didn't want to have the standard anymore. And that car was just beating me up a little too much, and I wasn't driving it a lot. And I also wanted to experience this car. I've been dying to experience this car ever since it was introduced. But these cars were very, very hard to get in 2018, 2019. And I'm fortunate enough that I bought one last year. So if you guys are familiar with Mercedes-Benz, and they did have that merger with Chrysler, you know, back over 20 years ago, I still feel this architecture of this car, because it exhibits so much chassis behavior of a Dodge Viper. The way the back hops, double wishbone suspension, the long front end. And if you think about it, look at the Viper ACRs, even, you know, historically up until the final generation, as far as what those cars lapped at the Nürburgring. And I know that the AMG team definitely took that car as a platform benchmark to make this car. I know for a fact. And they just put their German engineering and spin on it. But you guys can see it. This car is incredible. You could drive this car fast on any of your back roads with 100% confidence. It's got the sound, it's got the brakes, it's got the grip. I mean, look at the steering. It's just so telepathic. It's unbelievable, this car. One of the favorite cars I've ever owned in my life is the AMG GTR. Power delivery is not as quick as the R35. That's because of, you know, two different engines. We have a bi-turbo 4-liter V8 versus the V6. So they do things a little bit differently. Gearing is completely different, different transaxles, different power to weight ratios. But my God, this car is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, you could just hear the audible difference between the two cars. I mean, this thing is a monster. The AMG GTR, even though the 4-liter, they kind of threw it into everything that Mercedes-Benz made, it's still a freaking good sounding motor with the titanium exhaust in this car. I mean, the way it cracks and bangs. Woo! Oh man, with this car, I'm telling you, when you get it open on a nice road, just the experience between the grip, the steering, the braking, the sound, the bang of the dual clutch, I don't know, it just checks off all the boxes for me. Plus, I love the audio system. We got a high-end posh interior. We got really cool retro-esque styling of vintage Mercedes-Benz race cars of the 50s. So there's like the heritage all, you know, that kind of ties in to what I love about this car. It's not just to say, hey, I have an AMG GTR. I mean, I love everything about this thing. There's like, the only thing that I wish, if I could change one thing on this car, would be maybe make it a little bit more comfortable in terms of suspension, but then I think it would take away from what this car excels at. So we're gonna let these two Volvos in front of me get away, and then I'm gonna open it up and barrel down this road again. Oh, this car is an angry son of a bitch. My God. The handling, the grip, the back hop like a Dodge Viper. Oh my God. Yeah, this car gets your heart pumping, man. This car actually requires a little bit more driver skill to go fast than the R35 GTR T-Spec. Oh my God, I'm out of breath. Yeah, this car is no joke. On your favorite back road, this thing does everything exceptionally well. Oh my God, the grip. The carbon ceramic brakes slow you down. Whew. My God, these are two completely different high-performance GTRs. But I'll give you guys my final thoughts in a couple of minutes when we go back. But my God, this thing, every single time I get in this car, I get that adrenaline, that excitement, that visceral engagement. And not many cars do that for me. So let's get back and we'll talk more about Japan versus Germany in terms of who builds the better and more raucous GTR. All right, guys, this is the conclusion of the battle of the two GTRs. And I'm gonna tell you, both of these cars are absolutely the most incredible machines you're gonna get for the money. They're no longer in production. They're totally bespoke, hand-built cars. They have supercar performance, and what they give you, it's just unbelievable. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. In terms of the visceral, raw, angry feel out of the box, the AMG GTR wins hands down. It's louder, it sounds better. It takes a little bit more skill to drive this car faster. Whereas the R35 T-Spec, you could get in it, you could daily drive this thing. It's got one of the best high performance suspensions ever on any performance car. Both of them are comfortable. This one's more comfortable to drive more often. This one is a little stiff. It's very bumpy. It's got the rear suspension hop like a Dodge Viper. But both of these cars give you so much in terms of an enthusiastic driving experience that there is no clear winner. It really depends on what car you want, what car you think is better looking, what car, like, do you really care about the 3,000 horsepower tuning potential, or do you really care about, you know, the historical vintage retro styling of an AMG, or do you like the styling of the R35? It's totally up to you. Either way, you can't go wrong with either one, but I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't sell this to get this. I would sell other cars to get this. And I still would love to own an R35 GTR T-Spec, but other than that, I am super fortunate that I have an AMG GTR. Every time I get in it, my heart is still racing. I have anxiety. I get anxiety every time I drive it because the car is so visceral, so loud. It's got so much grip. This car gives you so much more feedback than the R35 was. Believe it or not, the R35, even though it's all-wheel drive, I feel much more confident in higher speed back roads with the AMG. Is it the rear wheel steer? Is it the more gigantic contact patch front and rear? Is it the lighter weight? I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. This is more like you get in it, you hammer on it, it's comfortable, you could drive it every day. You could also do a 7-second quarter mile with a bunch of mods. It really depends what you're looking for. Thanks for watching this video. It took me a while to get these two cars together and do this side by side because I wanted to drive them back to back. I did not want to film this video on 2 different days. I just don't think it was going to give me the ultimate feedback to talk to you guys in the video as I'm driving. So hope you guys like this video. Please like, subscribe, and share. Stay tuned to the Auto Fanatic channel for more content. And like I said, if you guys are out there and you want to spend between 120 to 170 grand and you're looking for a GTR, you can't go wrong with either one. These are two of the best high performance cars that are designated GTR ever created in the world, and I absolutely adore them. And it's an incredible opportunity that I have to experience them and share it with you on the channel. See you guys in the next one soon. Stay tuned for more content.